Chosen one, your opposition is suffering through a humiliation ritual of their own, stunned by how you survived what was meant to break you. Right now, the pressure is closing in on them. You didn't escape untouched. You adapted, you endured, you transformed, and as they struggle to stand where you once stood, the truth lands hard. Survival wasn't luck. You went through something that should have destroyed you. Let me be clear about that. What you survived wasn't a minor inconvenience. It wasn't a small challenge. It was a complete dismantling of everything you thought was solid. It was a fire that burned away everything false. It was pressure that revealed what you're really made of. And people watched you go through it. They observed your stumbling. They witnessed your falling. They saw your mistakes. They monitored your struggle to find footing. And the whole time they watched, they made comments. They formed judgments. They analyzed every move like they were experts on your life. You were doing it wrong according to them. If it was them, they would handle it completely differently. They had strategies. They had plans in place. They had solutions available. They made loud proclamations about doing A, B, and C. They made announcements to anyone who would listen. They made sure everyone knew they could do better than you. You were being forged in that fire. You were being refined by that pressure. You were being transformed by that struggle. Every mistake taught you something crucial. Every fall built your resilience. Every moment of confusion sharpened your discernment. You weren't failing. You were learning how to fly in a hurricane. And they gave the impression that you were just bad at flying. They didn't understand that what you were navigating was exponentially more difficult than anything they'd previously experienced. They judged your performance without understanding the conditions you were performing under. So you kept going, you kept pushing, you kept moving forward even when you didn't know the destination. You made it through that fire. You survived that pressure. You came out on the other side. And something shifted in you during that process. Something fundamental changed in your frequency. You weren't the same person who entered that trial. You emerged as someone completely different. Those same people who were so loud about what they would do differently are about to get their opportunity. The universe heard every single word they spoke. The universe took notes on every judgment they made. The universe documented every criticism they shared. And the universe is fair. The universe gives everyone the chance to prove what they claim. These weren't quiet observations they kept private. They announced their opinions publicly. They made sure everyone in their circles heard how they would handle your situation better. They positioned themselves as the smarter one, the stronger one, the more capable one. They spoke with confidence about moves they would make, decisions they would execute, strategies they would implement. They dissected every action of yours, like sports commentators analyzing a game from the safety of the broadcast booth. They pointed out what you did wrong without acknowledging what you did right. They highlighted your stumbles without recognizing your recovery. They criticized your pace without understanding your marathon. And the whole time, they built themselves up by tearing you down. The universe doesn't just listen to what people say about others. The universe uses what people say about others to design their next test. Their judgments become their curriculum. Their criticisms become their assignments. Their proclamations become their examinations. So one by one, these people are being placed in situations remarkably similar to yours. Same type of pressure, same type of pain, same type of impossible circumstances. The universe is serving them the exact test you already passed. But here's the twist. Here's what makes this so profound. They don't have what you developed in your fire. They're walking into situations that require the strength you built. They're facing challenges that demand the wisdom you earned. They're navigating circumstances that need the discernment you sharpened. But they skipped the preparation. They skipped the forging process. They thought they could just step into victory without going through the transformation. You know what's really happening here. They're discovering that watching someone go through something is completely different from going through it yourself. Observing struggle from the outside gives you the illusion of understanding without the reality of experience. They thought proximity to your pain gave them insight into your process. They were wrong. And right now, they're discovering something that shatters their entire self-image. They're learning that all their theories don't hold up under real pressure. All their strategies fall apart when reality tests them. All their bold proclamations mean nothing when they're actually in the fire. The heat doesn't care about their theories. The pressure doesn't respond to their strategies. The storm doesn't stop because they have a plan. They're not just going through something difficult. They're stuck. They're trapped. They're sinking because they made a critical mistake. They jumped into your situation thinking it would be easy. They saw you climb out of the mud and they thought, I can handle that. I can do that better. But what looked like mud to them was actually quicksand, and the moment they jumped in, they started sinking. Now they're realizing they don't have the tools to escape. They don't have the knowledge to navigate. They don't have the strength to pull themselves out. Their backs are against the wall. Their options are disappearing. Their confidence is crumbling. You want to know what makes quicksand so deadly? It's not the depth, it's the panic. The more you struggle without wisdom, the faster you sink. The more you fight without strategy, the deeper you go. The more you resist without understanding, the tighter it grips. And right now, they're panicking. They're struggling wildly. They're fighting blindly. And every move is making things worse. They're trying things that sound good in theory, but fail in practice. They're implementing strategies that look smart on paper, but collapse under pressure. They're making decisions that seem logical from the outside, but prove disastrous from the inside, because they're operating from a place of panic rather than peace. They're moving from fear rather than faith. They're reacting from desperation rather than discernment. If these words stirred your consciousness, hype this video to help more chosen ones awaken to this. Time is running out for them. They're sinking deeper every moment they waste. They need to figure something out quickly, or they're going under completely. But every move they make seems to make things worse. Every decision they try backfires. Every strategy they attempt fails. The pressure is mounting. The walls are closing in. The sand is rising. Watch what happens when someone who criticized your struggle faces their own struggle. Watch how quickly their confidence evaporates. Watch how fast their certainty crumbles. Watch how rapidly their arrogance transforms into anxiety. They went from knowing everything to knowing nothing. From having all the answers to having nothing but questions. From being certain about your mistakes to being confused about their own situation. Meanwhile, you're over here glowing. You're shining. You're rising higher. Your life is expanding in ways they never predicted. Your success is growing in ways they never imagined. Your blessing is multiplying in ways they never expected. And they're watching all of this happen while they're drowning. They're witnessing your ascension while they experience their descent. Something is happening that they'll never admit publicly. In their private moments, in their quiet reflections, they're saluting you. They're honoring you. They're respecting you in ways they never did before, because now they understand what it took for you to survive, what you survived. They feel weak compared to you. That's the truth they're facing. That's the reality they can't escape. All their bravado was covering up their own insecurity. All their criticism was projecting their own inadequacy. All their judgments were revealing their own limitations. And now they're being exposed. Now they're being revealed. Now they're being seen for who they really are beneath the performance. This is the part they never expected. They thought their mask was permanent. They believed their facade was unbreakable. They assumed their image was indestructible. But pressure has a way of cracking everything that isn't authentic. Fire has a way of burning away everything that isn't real. Storms have a way of destroying everything that isn't solid. So now they're sitting alone with themselves. Now they're facing their own reflection without filters. Now they're confronting their own reality without distortions. And what they're seeing is uncomfortable. What they're discovering is painful. What they're acknowledging is humiliating. They're not who they pretended to be. They're not as strong as they claimed. They're not as capable as they portrayed. The masks are coming off. Not just their public masks, their internal masks too. The illusions they told themselves are being shattered. The lies they believed about themselves are being exposed. The false confidence they maintained is being stripped away. Layer by layer, the pretense is being removed. Piece by piece, the performance is ending. Moment by moment, the truth is emerging. They're being forced to look at who they really are. No filters, no distortions, no comfortable delusions, just raw truth. And that truth is showing them where they went wrong. Not just with you, with themselves. They're seeing where they spoke too soon, where they judged too quickly, where they assumed too much, where they claimed too confidently. This revelation is hitting them in waves. First comes the shock. They can't believe they were so wrong about you. Then comes the shame. They're embarrassed by what they said. Then comes the regret. They wish they could take back their words. Then comes the recognition. They're understanding now what you understood then. Then comes the transformation. They're changing because of what they're learning. Let me show you what you look like to them. Let me reveal what they saw that created such jealousy. You have a radiance about you that comes from surviving impossible odds. You carry a glow that only comes from being refined by fire. You possess a strength that only comes from choosing yourself when everyone else wanted you to stay small. But it's more than just your external success. It's the way you carry yourself now. It's the peace in your eyes that comes from knowing you survived your worst nightmare. It's the confidence in your steps that comes from walking through hell and coming out stronger. It's the wisdom in your words that comes from learning lessons that can't be taught, only experienced. They wanted what you have. They wanted your shine without your struggle. They wanted your glory without your story. They wanted your breakthrough without your breakdown. And they thought they could get it by copying your moves. They thought they could achieve it by imitating your path. They studied your actions without understanding your motivations. They observed your decisions without comprehending your desperation. They watched your journey without feeling your pain. Your shine isn't just about what you did. It's about who you became. Your glow isn't just about what you achieved. It's about what you endured. Your radiance isn't just about your success. It's about your transformation. They wanted the destination without the journey. They wanted the crown without the cross. They wanted the resurrection without the crucifixion. You attained something that can't be imitated. You developed something that can't be copied. You built something inside yourself that can only come from walking through your specific fire. They can copy your actions, but they can't duplicate your anointing. They can mimic your moves, but they can't replicate your resilience. They can follow your path, but they can't forge your character. This is why their version is worse. This is why their struggle is hitting harder. Because they don't have your internal resources. They don't possess your spiritual gifts. They don't carry your divine assignment. They tried to walk your path without your purpose, and now they're paying the price. Now they're learning the lesson. Now they're discovering the truth. Your shine came at a cost. Your glow was earned through sacrifice. Your radiance was purchased with pain. They saw the result, but ignored the process. They admired the outcome, but dismissed the journey. They wanted the prize, but rejected the price. Now they're finding out that some things can't be stolen. Some things can't be faked. Some things can only be earned through genuine transformation. You made moves that people said were crazy. You left situations that people said you'd regret. You walked away from things that people said you should have fought to keep. You transitioned out of environments that people said proved you were a quitter, and they had a lot to say about all of it. They didn't keep their opinions private. They made sure you heard their judgments. They criticized your decision to leave that relationship. They said you were running away. They said you weren't trying hard enough. They said you were being selfish. They questioned your timing. They doubted your reasoning. They challenged your wisdom. They made you feel like you were making the biggest mistake of your life. But you knew something they didn't know. You felt something they couldn't feel. You saw something they refused to see. They judged your choice to quit that job. They said you were throwing away stability. They said you were being irresponsible. They said you didn't know how good you had it. They lectured you about loyalty. They warned you about regret. They predicted your failure. But you understood something they couldn't grasp. That job was killing something inside you. That environment was poisoning your spirit. That situation was slowly destroying who you were meant to become. They questioned your wisdom in moving away. They said you were running from your problems. They said geography wouldn't change anything. They said you'd be back. They made jokes about your fresh start. They mocked your new beginning. They dismissed your need for change. But you recognized something they were blind to. Sometimes you have to leave where you are to become who you're meant to be. Sometimes distance is necessary for transformation. Sometimes you have to remove yourself from familiar dysfunction to discover your authentic power. They proclaimed they would never do what you did if they were in your position. They made sure everyone knew they had more staying power than you. They positioned themselves as stronger, wiser, more committed. They used your departure as proof of your weakness. They used your transition as evidence of your failure. They used your choice as a cautionary tale for others. But now the universe is giving them the opportunity to prove their claims. Now life is placing them in similar situations, where staying means dying slowly, and leaving means facing everyone's judgment. Now they're trapped in the same impossible choice you faced. Stay and lose yourself, or leave and lose everyone's approval. Guess what they're choosing? The exact same thing you chose. They're leaving. They're walking away. They're protecting their peace. They're choosing their sanity over other people's opinions. Because when you're actually drowning, when you're actually suffocating, when you're actually losing pieces of yourself every single day, all your theories about what you do mean absolutely nothing. Some of the people who judged you weren't just observers. They participated in your struggle. They created the toxicity you had to escape. They added weight to what you were carrying. They made your journey harder than it needed to be. Think about that for a moment. The same people who criticized how you handled your struggle were often the ones creating the struggle in the first place. They drained your energy while commenting on why you looked so tired. They created chaos while judging you for not having peace. They sabotaged your progress while asking why you weren't moving faster. That's a level of audacity the universe doesn't ignore. That's a degree of hypocrisy that demands correction. That's the kind of behavior that gets addressed through direct experience rather than gentle lessons. The universe doesn't argue with people like this. The universe doesn't debate them. The universe simply gives them an exact replica of what they gave you and says, "Here, now handle this yourself." And they thought you'd never leave. They thought they could keep trampling your boundaries without consequence. They thought they could keep disrespecting you while you remained available. They thought they could keep taking from you without giving anything back. They assumed you needed them more than they needed you. They believed you'd put up with anything to maintain the connection. Starseeds, they never expected this. The technology used to suppress consciousness has been reverse-engineered, and Destiny Engine is the result. What was once used against humanity is now your ascension weapon. You can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. Destiny Engine bypasses the conscious mind and rewrites the source code directly. Reality bends faster. Synchronicities stack. Your nervous system upgrades to a higher bandwidth. Put on headphones, press play. That's all. For $1, you switch sides of history. Click the link in the description. The takeover is internal. They got comfortable in their role. They settled into the position of always taking and never giving. They normalized treating you as less than, while expecting you to treat them as more than. They established a pattern where your needs didn't matter, but theirs were always urgent, where your feelings were dramatic, but theirs were valid, where your boundaries were negotiable but theirs were absolute. But you proved them wrong. When you discovered the full truth of what was happening, when you saw clearly the dynamic you were trapped in, when you understood the cost of staying versus the freedom of leaving, you chose yourself. You picked your peace over their presence. You selected your sanity over their approval. You decided your future was more valuable than their comfort. And now they're dealing with consequences they never saw coming. Now they're facing realities they never prepared for. Now they're experiencing loss they never expected. They're realizing what they had in you. They're understanding what they lost when you left. They're discovering that people who truly value you are rare, and replacing you is impossible, but it goes deeper than just missing what you provided. They're also stuck dealing with all the energy they put out. Every boundary they trampled on you, someone is now trampling on them. Every time they disrespected you, they're now being disrespected. Every way they dismissed you, they're now being dismissed. The universe is meticulous about this. The energy you send out always returns. The treatment you give always comes back. The seeds you plant always produce a harvest. This is where it all comes together. This is where you understand the bigger picture. What happened to you wasn't just about surviving a difficult season. It was about shifting to a completely different frequency. It was about ascending to a new dimension where the rules are different and the requirements are stricter. It was about leveling up in ways that would permanently separate you from everyone still operating on lower frequencies. That fire you walked through wasn't random destruction, it was intentional refinement. Every single thing that burned away needed to go. Every false belief that crumbled needed to collapse. Every fake connection that dissolved needed to end. The fire knew exactly what it was doing. It was clearing space for something greater that couldn't coexist with what you were carrying before. That pressure you endured wasn't meaningless suffering. It was strategic transformation. Pressure reveals what you're really made of underneath the performance. Pressure exposes what's authentic versus what's artificial. Pressure shows you who you are when nobody's watching and nothing's working. And you discovered something profound about yourself under that pressure. You found out you're built differently. You're constructed for challenges that would shatter most people. That struggle you survived stripped away every layer of pretense you were wearing. All the people-pleasing that kept you small. All the performing that exhausted you. All the contorting yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. All of it got burned away until only your authentic self remained. And that authentic self is operating on a frequency that most people can't even perceive yet. You discovered something revolutionary during that transformation. You learned that authenticity isn't just a nice quality to have. It's your actual superpower. It's the source of your real strength. You realized that every moment you spent wearing a mask was a moment you were disconnected from your true power. Every second you pretended to be something you're not was a second you couldn't access what's actually yours by divine right. So you made a choice that changed everything. You dropped the mask. You chose to be genuine, even when it was uncomfortable. You decided to be yourself fully and unapologetically, even when people said you were too much or not enough. You committed to truth, even when lies would have been easier. And that single decision shifted your entire frequency from one dimension to another. Now you're operating on a level that requires authenticity to even access. You're moving in dimensions where masks literally malfunction. You're accessing realms where only truth can survive and thrive. It's like you walked through a doorway that only opens for people who are being completely real. No pretense gets past that threshold. No performance can cross that boundary. No fakeness can enter that space. And on the other side of that doorway is everything you've been searching for. Everything you've been working toward. Everything that has your name on it. All the blessings that were blocked. All the opportunities that were delayed. All the connections that were missing. All the abundance that was waiting. It was all on the other side of that authenticity barrier, waiting for you to drop your mask and walk through. This isn't just about karma catching up. This isn't just about people getting what they deserve. This is about transformation being offered to everyone who's ready to receive it. The people going through their humiliation process right now are being given the exact same opportunity you had. They're being offered the chance to drop their masks and discover who they really are. Their struggle is teaching them what they refused to learn through observation. Their pain is showing them truths they were too arrogant to acknowledge when someone else was going through it. Their humiliation is breaking down the false self they constructed so carefully over time. Every comfortable lie is being exposed. Every convenient delusion is being shattered. Every protective illusion is being destroyed. This process isn't gentle. It's not supposed to be. Transformation never is. The caterpillar doesn't peacefully transition into a butterfly. It completely dissolves first. Everything it was must die before it can become what it's meant to be. That's what's happening to them right now. They're being dissolved. They're being broken down. They're being completely unmade so they can be reconstructed as something authentic. Some of them will get it. Some of them will finally understand what you were trying to show them just by being yourself. Some of them will drop the mask they've worn their whole life. Some of them will choose authenticity over approval. Some of them will pick truth over comfort. And when they do, they'll rise up. They'll transform. They'll shift to a higher frequency themselves. They'll become someone who can actually exist in the new dimensions you're accessing. And they'll thank you for showing them the way, even if they never say it out loud, even if they never acknowledge the role you played, even if they take all the credit for their transformation. You'll know, you'll recognize your influence in their evolution. You'll see your impact in their authenticity, because you were the example that made their transformation possible. You were the proof that dropping the mask doesn't destroy you. You were the evidence that being real is actually the path to power. But some of them won't get it. Some of them will fight the lesson every step of the way. Some of them will keep the mask on even while they're drowning under its weight. Some of them will choose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truth. Some of them will select familiar dysfunction over unfamiliar freedom. And they'll stay stuck. They'll remain trapped in their own cycles. They'll continue sinking in the same quicksand that's been pulling them under. You can't save them from that choice. You can't force them to transform. You can't make them ready for what they're not ready for. All you can do is continue being the example. All you can do is keep living your truth. All you can do is maintain your authenticity while they decide whether they're going to learn the lesson or repeat the cycle. While they're learning lessons you already mastered, you're stepping into dimensions they haven't even imagined yet. While they're eating humble pie, you're feasting at tables prepared specifically for you. While they're stuck in quicksand, you're walking on solid ground toward unprecedented breakthrough. This next season for you is about expansion on a scale you haven't experienced before. This upcoming chapter is about multiplication, where you only saw addition. This new dimension is about abundance in forms you didn't even know were possible. Everything you went through was preparing you for this exact moment. Every struggle was building your capacity to hold what's coming. Every trial was enlarging your container so you could receive what's been waiting. You're being called to the spotlight now, not because you're seeking attention, but because your assignment requires visibility. You're being summoned to shine in ways that will make people uncomfortable because they're not used to seeing that level of authentic radiance. You're about to show them what real transformation looks like, what genuine success feels like. You didn't get here through connections or manipulation. You got here through choosing yourself when everyone said you shouldn't, through being real when everyone wanted you fake, through maintaining your frequency when everyone tried to pull you down. You didn't build this on performance or pretense. You built this on the solid foundation of who you really are. You constructed this from the authentic materials of your genuine transformation. And because it's real, it's sustainable. Because it's authentic, it's expandable. Because it's true, it's unshakable. That freedom is what allows you to operate at levels most people can't access. That peace is what creates space for blessings most people block with their performing. That authenticity is what attracts opportunities most people repel with their pretense. You made it through by facing the truth when everyone else was comfortable with lies. You survived by being authentic when everyone else was content with pretense. You conquered by refusing to wear a mask when everyone else wouldn't take theirs off. That's the key they're searching for. That's the secret they need to learn, and you're showing them the way just by continuing to be yourself. You're teaching them just by living your truth without apology. Your life is the sermon they need to hear. Your journey is the lesson they need to learn. Your testimony is the proof that transformation is actually possible. Now you understand that their humiliation process isn't about you getting revenge. It's about the universe maintaining balance. It's about reality correcting distortions. It's about truth eventually revealing itself no matter how long lies dominated. Their current situation is showing them what you already discovered, that the path they criticized was actually the wisest route, that the choices they condemned were actually the bravest decisions, that the moves they mocked were actually the most intelligent actions. So keep shining, keep rising, keep glowing, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because that's who you are now. That's what you've become through your transformation. That's the frequency you operate on after walking through fire and coming out refined instead of destroyed. You survived what should have destroyed you. You thrived in conditions that would have broken most people. You transformed in fire that would have consumed others. And now you're walking in a dimension where masks don't exist anymore, where truth is the only language, where authenticity is the only currency, where being real is the only way to operate. And while you're collecting your inheritance, someone sits in their humiliation process, learning the exact lesson you've already mastered. They're eating humble pie while you feast. They're stuck while you walk on solid ground. They're drowning in confusion while you swim in clarity that comes from knowing exactly who you are. They're discovering what you already know deeply, that authenticity is power beyond measure, that truth sets you free in ways nothing else can, that being real is the only way to truly win. They're learning what cost you everything but gave you back even more. The masks are coming off for everyone now. The illusions are falling away. The shadows are being exposed. And in this new frequency, only those willing to be real will thrive. Only those who drop the mask will rise. Only those who choose authenticity will access the blessings waiting at this level. You led the way by being brave enough to go first. You showed it's possible by surviving what they said would destroy you. You proved it works by transforming when they predicted you'd break. Now watch as they either follow your example or stay trapped. Watch as they either learn or repeat the cycle. But you keep moving forward into unprecedented territory. You keep ascending higher. You keep accessing deeper levels of blessing, breakthrough, and abundance. Because you earned this by surviving the fire. Because you proved your readiness by refusing to wear a mask even when everyone said you should. That's how you made it through what's currently breaking them. That's how you survived what they can't understand. You faced the truth without blinking. You dropped the mask without hesitation. You chose authenticity without reservation. And that changed everything. That shifted your frequency. That transformed your reality. Now they're learning that same lesson. Now they're walking that same path. Whether they make it through or not, you'll still be shining. You'll still be glowing. You'll still be winning. You'll still be ascending. You are that proof walking. You are that evidence breathing. You are that testimony living. So carry it proudly. Walk in it confidently. Be it unapologetically, loudly, boldly, powerfully, unstoppably. And that's why you're glowing now while they're learning. That's why you're rising now while they're struggling. The masks are coming off. Truth is being revealed. Authenticity is being required. and you've already mastered what they're just beginning to learn. This is how chosen ones rise victoriously. One person chooses truth courageously. One person drops the mask bravely. One person refuses to pretend consistently. And that choice creates a ripple effect that touches everyone connected. You keep ascending beyond comprehension. You keep expanding beyond imagination. You keep collecting everything that's yours, because you've already learned what they're still learning. You've already mastered what they're still discovering. You've already become what they're still trying to be. That's the power of choosing truth. That's the result of dropping the mask. That's the outcome of being authentic. You transform completely. You transcend permanently. You triumph definitively. This is your season. This is your time. This is your moment. By being willing to be yourself when everyone wanted you to be someone else. By choosing truth when lies would have been easier. By dropping your mask when keeping it on would have been safer. That's how you made it through. That's how you survived. That's how you conquered. And that's exactly what they're trying to figure out right now, as they sit in their own fire, wondering how you walked through yours without being consumed. The answer is simple but not easy. You were real. You were authentic. You were yourself, fully, completely, unapologetically. And that made all the difference. That changed everything. That shifted your entire reality from one dimension to another. Now keep walking in that truth without wavering. Keep living in that authenticity without compromising. Keep being that example without apologizing. Because your life is teaching lessons you'll never have to speak. Your journey is transforming people you'll never meet. This is your time. Own it completely. Walk in it boldly. Shine through it unapologetically. Because the world is watching, they're learning, and you are becoming everything you were always meant to be.